when I left school, my headmaster turned around to me and said, if you stay out of prison, you'll be a success. We had no money as children. I can remember hiding behind the settee from the tallyman. I know that I will never allow my children to experience what I experienced. I have enough demons in my head to know that demons in your head can cause you problems. And I fight with those demons on a daily basis. You know, it's taken me 60 years to realise it wasn't right. You know, if you'd have asked me 15 years ago, it never did me any harm. Yeah, it did. It did, and I'm still suffering. Our childhood defines you for what you are, and you react. And it's taken me till I'm 61 years old now. It's taken me till I'm 61 years old, to realise that actually what matters is love. Intrinsically, I'm an entrepreneur. But if there's one regret, try and be happy in yourself, in your own world, with your family around you. And if you can achieve that, you are the most successful person in the world. And I've got 3 love hearts back from my 2 sons and my wife. And that was it. In the moment. Success. Done. That's it.
You go back to one point in your life and you can change it, what would it be?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there. God's honest truth.
I'm on a mission to help the world to see success differently. Through sharing the stories of our guests, I hope to inspire those that listen. This is the Different Hats podcast, produced by H2 Productions. I hope you can join us on this journey. Okay, I'm just going to say something about one of our sponsors, Riverval. The world of cars, vans and minibuses is often a pain point for many of us. The hassle of finding the right vehicle, let alone looking after it, are all more things to add to our lists as busy people. Riverval's mission is to make motoring manageable, and that's why they provide leasing, purchasing, servicing and vehicle management. So whether you have one family car or a fleet of vans for your business, Riverval are your trusted vehicle supplier. Visit www.riverval.co.uk. Okay, let's jump back to the podcast. Okay, welcome to another episode of the podcast.
Hello, mate.
I'm here with founder of Sussex Signs, Mr. Norman Mayhew.
Hello.
How are you, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, really good.
Mate, absolutely buzzing to have you on.
Yeah.
It's been great getting to know you over the last year or so. We've had many a coffee and a chat.
Yes,
and almost recorded many of these. If we had
we could have done, couldn't we?
But so I thought to myself, why don't we just get it out there and share it with the rest of the world? Because, mate, honestly, every time I chat to you, there's so much wisdom that you share, and 30 years in business, right? It's I mean, everyone knows the statistics, how many businesses close after the first year, how many fail after 3 years, 5 years. 30 years in business is a long time, eh?
30 years is a lifetime. and before that, of course, there was 30 years of building up to get in the business after 30 years.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a journey.
Yeah. Well, look, I can't wait to delve into it and share that. So, look, but we're going to kick off, as we always do, with, mate, talk to me after all that time and where you are right now. What does success mean to you? How do you define it?
It's interesting. So success means so many different things, and success in different areas of your life means so many different things. So when we all start in business, and I think everyone's guilty of this when they start a business, you have a dream, and it's usually a monetary figure. And I think that's where people fall down, and that's where people make the mistake. And And after 30 years, and I was just talking to you before you press play, after 30 years, you realise that the monetary figure is not the important figure at all. It's not important, because if it was all about money, the likes of Richard Branson, the likes of Alan Sugar, and all those great people that we look at, they would have stopped years ago because they've got more money than they know what to do with. So what drives them on? And it's the doing. It's the going to work every single day and sorting the problems. We all go to work and we all have a number of problems that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And we deal with those problems, we deal with those issues. We like to grow our business, we meet new people. And people say to me, and they always have done, when I started the business, I used to go along to networking meetings. It never used to be called networking meetings back in those days. That's a BNI construct. But we used to go along and meet different people, and they always used to say to me, and it still said, "What's your exit plan?" And I said, "I haven't got one." I think you've got to have an exit plan. You have to start. And if you listen to any of these gurus, they always talk about an exit plan. No, my exit plan is I want to enjoy what I do every day. I want to take something out of what I do every single day. I want to be in that moment and deal with the issues that are thrown at me on a daily basis, which they are, And I heard a statement the other day, and I thought, well, that's a good one. I wonder if I can use that in the podcast, because obviously I was going to. And it was, I'm dealing with more shit than pigs at the moment, And I thought, yeah, that's what being in business is like, And every day you go along, and something's thrown at you. At the moment, we've got the national minimum wage being thrown at us. Which people say, well, that shouldn't affect business, should it? It's the national minimum wage. You pay more than the national minimum wage. Yeah, I did. 3 years ago, I paid everyone a lot more than the national minimum wage, but I didn't pay everyone what the national minimum wage is now. So you have to up the game. So that puts costs. When you increase your costs, then the rent goes up and the rates go up and everything else goes up. And then how are you going to do that? How are you going to get those extra clients? And I'm not saying that for people to feel sorry for me. I'm saying that to just say how it is. And I can remember, back in, I think it was 1998, the Labour Party brought in the first national minimum wage. And I can remember it was £5 an hour. And now it's £12.21 an hour as of today. And when it was £5 an hour, everyone, the Tories and everyone said that the national minimum wage is going to put businesses out. You have to adapt. You just have to adapt. So going back to your original question, how do you define success? I know you have a specific term for success, and I think that's a really, really good way of dealing with success or explaining what success is. But I define success as the realisation of a worthy goal, and it changes as you go through life. So when you're a youngster, when you're a child, people talk about their SATs tests, which don't get me started on those, but you talk about SATs tests, and we all judge our children by how academic they are. Everyone does. Oh, he's a little, or she's a little genius. She's got X on her maths test, or he's a little genius. He's got Y on his English test. My son's dyslexic, and I could not be prouder. He is the most intelligent. In fact, both my sons are dyslexic. And both of them are the most intelligent people that you could ever meet. But sit them down to pass an exam, and they won't do it. But oh my God, they are so bright, it's unreal. And I'm so proud of what they've managed to achieve. So I think success for everyone should be defined. I do the right thing, be honest, have integrity, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, and be there for people who need you to be there for them. So, over the years, as you can imagine, people have phoned me up and said, "Norm, I'm in trouble." And I go, "Okay, what do you need?" And you help them. And you help them for no reason. I spent 8 years as a lifeboatman, and the definition of success, as far as I'm concerned, is is being able to stop what you're doing and go and help somebody in need. You know, that is what I spent 8 years doing. You know, when my pager went off, I would stop what I was doing. I would put the phone down if I was on the phone to a client. I'd say, sorry, I've got a shout, and I'd put the phone down. Invariably, they'd phone back. He's just put the phone down on me, and they'd explain what it was, which was quite interesting. But I'd go out on the lifeboat, and we'd help somebody in need. We'd come back, we'd wash the boat, we'd go back to work. Silently. Nobody knew we were doing it. And nobody knew. We'd go out. Very often I'd turn up at work in the morning, I'd be shattered, and they'd go, why is that? Oh, I got a shout at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was out. And what did you do? I went and picked up a fishing boat. There were fishermen in trouble. Pulled it back into New Haven, got back into New Haven at 5 o'clock in the morning, went home, showered, went back to work. You know, that happened on numerous occasions. Nobody knows. You know, so what's success? Is it money? No, it's not money. Success is being able to go through your life and then looking back on what you've done, and have you done it in an honest way, with integrity, and proud of what you've done. And we all make mistakes. You know, people, I was talking to somebody this morning actually, and you know, people talk about mistakes and errors, and if you're a football manager, you're not allowed to make a mistake. You know, if I was a football manager, my career would have been over years ago. You know, because you make mistakes, and in business you can make mistakes in business, and you learn from them. You know, it really amazes me how many people turn around and say the thing about mistakes is they're a learning opportunity, unless you're a football manager.
but they are, aren't they? And there's it's so much there for me to just delve into. What, firstly, on that point, you look at, and you're right, like mistakes are learning, and we've got everyone will make mistakes, and it's reframing that. Again, it's like where we are now, it's reframing, like failure, especially in this country, we're seeing failure or mistakes, they're seen as a negative term. Failure is seen as quite a negative term, whereas if we reframe that, and same with the success side of things, I try and reframe that, but if we talk about failure, you reframe that to it being learning. Failure equals learning. If that's the message that everyone's getting, then you, like from a young age as well, then that's got to be better, because you're going into things and you're going to go, I'm going to try new things because it doesn't matter if I fail, because that's just a way for me, and the best way for me to learn. And the other point, I love the definition of success, right? Listening to you talk about helping others. One of the things, and I've referenced this quite a bit recently on the podcast, about a monk done a podcast called, and it was The Path of a Swami. It's a really, really good podcast. I've listened to it a couple of times, and he talks about success, and he talks about the 3 things that make you feel and that make you successful. And one of those key one's loving what you do, which you mentioned, right? And one of the key ones was helping others to be successful. Helping others, right? And that's like, if you're able to do that gives you. I get there's so much out there with the comparison on social media, the comparison in the world that we live in. I've got to do better than that person. I've got to do better than that. But if you genuinely get joy from helping others, that's a great place to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been, like I say, I've been doing this 30 years now. I've made more mistakes than you can imagine. And when I talk to somebody, especially if they're fairly new in business, and they say to me, I want to do this or I want to do that, and I'll go, oh, have you thought about doing this? And you can just give them that little chestnut, that little nugget of information that will, one, save them a fortune, 2, stop them from making a mistake in the first place, or 3, help them on their journey. You know, it just helps them on their journey. What you want to do is this. Have you, you know, when I started the Sussex Sign Company, websites hadn't been invented. You know, it was that long ago. The only marketing people did was put an advert in the Yellow Pages, you know, and there's most people listening to this won't even know what Yellow Pages is, you know. And, you know, a lot of my compatriots, a lot of my colleagues, you know, they've all retired now. You know, friends who I started around in business, they've all retired. I'm having to reinvent myself, getting to know new people, because all the people that I used to know in business have gone. You know, they've retired, they're sailing off, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to go, you know, because people get bored. You know, I could just imagine what I'd be doing if I didn't do this.
It's purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's purpose. We need, like, so much. It's purpose, and actually, like you're saying, the other thing around doing stuff that aligns with your value. If you get to the end of our days, right, and we look back and we go, have I lived a life in alignment with my values?
Yeah.
If I've done that, whatever's in the bank account, wherever we are on that thing, I'm doing all right, okay? Because I've lived that life that's in alignment with what I believe in: integrity, honesty, those type of values, right? Love, and all of them things. That, am I doing that on a daily basis? Yeah. I like to think I am. So actually, if I can continue on that path, and once you've got that in your head, that you go, it's that's what I believe in. It's easy to go, no, that doesn't work for me because that doesn't align with this.
Yeah.
I'll do that because that really aligns with what my goal is. So yeah, there's so much in there. I think, but I want let's go back, right? I want to go right back to the beginning,
Right.
Because I want to understand a little bit more.
The beginning of the business or the beginning
of you. I want to know what do we need to know about. For someone who's been in business 30, what do I need to know about you? What life growing up? Talk to me about that and how that sort of shaped who sits in front of us today.
Cool, crikey, that's deep. Most people who are successful or have any modicum of success, they give you stories. We'll all give you stories. I grew up in an era where if you did something wrong, you were beaten. I can tell you stories about Christmas Day. I knocked over a glass of water. My dad lined me, my sister and my brother up. Because my sister and brother wouldn't tell my dad who did it, we all got the belt at Christmas Day. And that's tough. Those are the memories that I have. And my parents were products of the Second World War. My mum was brought up in an orphanage, and orphanages back in those days were not quite like how they depicted nowadays. You know, they were awful places. She told me about those. So my dad left the tenements of Brighton to join the Navy, to get away from the bedbugs and the rats and the cockroaches. So he joined the Navy to get away from that. And I think when people talk about life today, they have absolutely no concept in any way, shape or form of how life it was for what most people listen to would be for their grandparents. You know, because I'm old enough now to be a lot of the people's parent who are listening to this. So to understand what our grandparents went through and the way they were, you know, spare the rod, spoil the child. That's the thing that used to be said. And we've now realised that actually, you know, beating a child when they're younger is not good. It's not actually a good thing, you know. And my brother and sister, I love them both dearly. They would probably say that it never did me any harm. I guarantee it did. I absolutely guarantee it did. You know, my brother, my eldest brother, who's not with us sadly anymore, he had a car crash when he was 18 years old, and my childhood was defined by that, and everything was based around looking after my brother, and we did that up until the day he died, and we had no money as children. I can remember hiding behind the settee from the tallyman knocking on the door. You know, I think they call it, you know, payday loans now, you know. But instead of phoning you up and threatening you, they actually physically come round and threaten you. And my mum was saying, you know, she kept us off work for 2 weeks once. Kept us off work, not work. Kept us off school for 2 weeks once because she couldn't afford a pair of shoes. So that is where I've come from. And growing up, I swore that my kids would never go through that. So I work 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, constantly, and I still do. And I will never stop doing that. And I'll never stop doing that because I know that I will never allow my children to experience what I experienced. So when I started with the Sussex Sign Company, before that, and doing other jobs, I've done dustman. I've been a dustman. I used to cycle to Eastbourne to get on the dust carts, and then from there I would then go to work, spend a day at work, and then in the evening I'd go and drive a taxi. That's what, when my eldest son was born, that's what I did. And people look at me now and go, "Oh, it's all right for you," but they don't know the journey. They don't know the journey. And one of your things is everyone has a story to tell. They don't know my story. And there's no reason why they should. And they shouldn't care about it either, because my story is my story, you know. But that's what gives me the drive to do what I do. That's why I did what I did. And, you know, it's doing the right thing by your children. And I listen to people now, and one of the things I advise people to do is spend more time with their kids, because I didn't spend enough of mine. You know.
Do you look back at that and because I think how many parents and business owners will be listening to this going, yeah, that's me. We're out. Part of us is we're out grafting 16 hours a day, whatever that looks like, 18 hours a day, 20, whatever we do, and I'm doing it for them. And I'm saying it because I'm guilty of it still sometimes, but I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to learn, because I'm speaking to people like yourself who have been there, done it, and advised that, and you look and go, no, I need to take that. So as much as I don't get that right all the time, I do take them to school most days. I am around generally to pick them up. I haven't missed a school play yet, and I'm conscious that I'm there, and as much as I'm out grafting and I'm still doing them hours in between, I try and make it the business flexible to be able to do it. And I don't get that right all the time, and I think it's hard to think that sometimes for other people, but there's something so important in that, I think, for people from listening to what you're saying, looking back, because is that a regret, or how do you view it now, like where you are now?
There's so many things you've just said. I mean, regrets, and people say, I've heard other people say, "Oh, don't do regrets." Well, that's total bollocks. You know, if anyone doesn't do regrets, they you know, they've got heart of stone. Of course, I've got regrets, but what I did was my best, and I don't regret doing my best.
And that's all we can do, right?
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah.
All we can do at the time is we do the best we can with what we've got on that day, right? That's all we can do.
Me and my wife have a fantastic relationship. We've been together 35 years. It's absolutely brilliant. I call her my current wife because she's but no, been absolutely fantastic. And when we were growing up, she has been my absolute rock, and you know, she's known my story. She had a much more privileged upbringing than I did, and because of that, she hasn't understood a lot of what I've had to do in my own head to stop this going, because sometimes it does me in, you know. And
in what way?
Well, you look back and you look forward, and I always used to think that money would solve everything, because it does, doesn't it? You know, when you're hiding behind the settee from the tallyman, you know that if you had £100 in the bank and you could pay the tallyman, that's going to solve the problem. But actually, you know, no, I don't want to get political, but a lot of what is said about poverty in this country today, they don't know what poverty is. You know, no, there's nobody in this country needs to be in poverty. Relative poverty, yes, I get it. There's the haves, and there's people who haven't got that much. But you go to some of these countries that haven't got running water, and they have to walk 8 miles to get a bucket of water, and they're 8-year-old kids doing it. That's poverty, you know. And the thing is, we suffer from anxiety because we want to have what everybody else, or what we believe and perceive everybody else has got. So people look at social. I came off social media, as you know, because I told you last time. I came off social media because you look at stories. Now I talk to people about their life and what a tough time they're having and what shit they're going through, and then I look at social media and go, oh my God, that is what they've just told me, and this is what I'm seeing. And the two aren't
aligned.
They're not aligned. They're just not aligned. And people are naive enough, because of the way social media is. I want to be like them. You really don't want to be like them. You really do not want to be like them. And I think that's a lot with life in general. And I grew up with an obsession that I was going to be successful. And I was going to be successful because I wanted my family not to have any kind of problems whatsoever. But I thought those problems were going to be money orientated, and my family's had loads of problems. We've all had loads of problems. We have rows with each other. Our childhood, with my own siblings, with our childhood defines you for what you are, and you react. And it's taken me till I'm 61 years old now. It's taken me till I'm 61 years old, to realise that actually what matters is love. What matters is that you care about each other. Money doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Money really doesn't matter. But I'm sort of so stuck in my ways now that I still won't give up, work or anything like that. Because like you said before, you need a purpose, and I think this is one of the things that is wrong. Not wrong. I think wrong is the wrong. Wrong is the wrong. Yeah, I'm not very good at English. I left school, as you can tell. I didn't leave school with the best academic.
That's why we get on so well, mate. We speak the same language.
I did not leave school with the best academic qualifications whatsoever.
But there is a picture of you at New Haven Academy.
There is the irony of that.
I took my kids there and I saw the picture of you, a successful businessman.
Do you know what?
I love that.
Jumping onto that is irony. That is irony. So when I left school, my headmaster turned around to me and said, if you stay out of prison, you'll be a success. Because I was not a good student at all. And then the same school, 40 years later, asked for a picture to go on the wall because they wanted me to be one of the alumni, I think it's called, of one of the most successful people who have left the school. Oh my God. And of course they've got the picture, and of course it happened, great ego boost. But it just goes to prove to you, no matter how badly you are doing at school, and how badly your children are doing at school, and how badly you think life is going to be, you turn it around.
But that says a couple of things there. One, it's because you look at what you've achieved and what you've done in business and in life, and you go, but you didn't do well at school because you was measured on an archaic system.
Yeah, and it's still the same system.
It's still the same system. This is the thing that drives me mental. Like, this is where it's broken. Like, where we're not teaching kids as human beings, we're teaching them as mathematicians or scientists. I've phrased this a couple of times. Jimmy Carr said it brilliantly. What we don't need, if you're shit at maths, right? What we don't need is more people that are shit at maths. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, lean into something else that you are good at, and what lights you up, and what you find that you enjoy. Lean into that. Do more of that. Of course, we've got to understand the fundamentals and the very basics. But don't go, I understand that, and then I've got to go and do Pythagoras rule and find out all about this. Soon, ChatGPT can do it all right now. They don't need to know it.
I know.
Right? So lean into the other stuff that they are good at. I mean,
Tony Blair said that he wanted 50% of student or kids to go to university. That's the biggest mistake they ever made. They did a lot of things that were good. That was the biggest mistake that they ever made, because we need plumbers, we need we need electricians, we need bricklayers, we need mechanics, we need engineers, and we send everyone to school, we send everyone to university. I've had people come and work for me, 21, 22 years old. They've got degrees. 23 years old, I've had people come and work for me. They've got master's degrees, and they make my academic ability. I haven't got one. And I talk to them sometimes, and I go away shaking my head because these people have got degrees. Now, when I was at school, if you had a degree, you were in the top 5% of educational ability in this country. And I think that's right. University students used to go to university to read X. I am reading sociology, I am reading physics, I am reading chemistry, and then they would go and be scientists and doctors and XYZ, the computer people from today. Now, I think the biggest mistake they ever did with university is clearing, So you can have a university place if you get 4 A's. All right, get 4 A's. I've got 4 B's. Right, great. You can't go to that university. We'll send you another one and do a course you don't really want to do. Why is that? Why is that? Just teach children financial education. Teach children, how to cook, how to look after a home, how to do stuff, how to fix things. How to fix things, and then from that, I used to, when I was at school, the 50s and 60s were quite a rough old time at school. We used to have fights with our teachers when I was at school. They wouldn't be allowed now, but it taught me a lot. And when you're in that sort of scenario, I did cookery classes, I did needlework classes, I did metalwork class, I did a design class because I wasn't very academic. I was absolutely awful at English. I was okay at mental arithmetic, not very good at maths. Mental arithmetic has seen me pretty good stead when I'm turning over £1.2 million. I need to work out a balance sheet.
Love that. That's when people relate it to that. If you was to teach financial literacy on that basis, right? There's different ways. I'm not saying everyone needs to run their own business and be an entrepreneur, but actually, if you understood financial literacy, so what it means, what's mortgage rates, tax, VAT, all of these.
What does APR mean?
Yeah.
So when you get somebody, they've got a credit card. It's plastic, and everything's on plastic now, and children understand the value of money, and I get that. So everyone is plastic, but what you want to say to a young person, because you've got to call them young people now.
Yeah.
What you've got to say to a young person is, do you know that if you put something in a credit card, and they say, oh, it's all right, it's only 1.2% a month. Well, that's right. Do you know 1.2% a month is actually 14.8% a year? I don't know if that math actually adds up, but that's
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that. No, I didn't know that. So that means if you buy something for £100, you've got to pay £114.20 back if you pay it back in a year. But if it takes you 2 years to pay it back, you've got to pay £128 back. But if you saved it up first, save the money first, and we all know it's all about the journey, not the destination. We always enjoy looking forward to the holiday more than we do the holiday. We always enjoy looking forward to the Christmas presents more than the actual getting of the Christmas presents. And how many times have we all got children and been really pissed off that PlayStation or that whatever it is you bought them, they're more interested in the cardboard box than they are the actual present you buy them.
I know that feeling.
We've all been there, and you think that's cost me fucking £500, and all you're interested in is this. And actually, all these toys you bought because you think it's great to buy all these toys, they're there. They go and play with one thing. Buy them one bloody thing. But no, you put yourself in debt. But what you didn't realise was how much that's going to cost you. You're paying it back for the next 2 years, putting yourself under stress. So you've got to do that overtime. And you've got to do that overtime. When you're doing that overtime, and you do that overtime to pay for the toys that you bought them, and I'm being guilty of this as well, you're paying the overtime, you're working the overtime for the toys you bought them that they didn't really want. They wanted your time. But you didn't have to do the overtime if you didn't buy them the toys and actually gave them the time.
That's all they want, isn't it?
That's all they want.
Really,
that's all they want.
And again, like, I hear you talking, and it's still like I'm holding, I guess, a mirror up to myself in that way because I'm still guilty of it. We still
so am I.
And I caveat it sometimes with the fact that when you go, especially when you love what you do, it's okay because I want them to grow up doing something that they love, and they see me going and doing things like, what are you doing today, Daddy? Got someone on a podcast today. Got my friend Norman coming and we're having a chat. Like, and they see me light up about that. They know I love doing this. So that's not me going to work. That's not me going to work to earn money to put food on the table. Yes, it's all a part of what we do, and money is a byproduct of doing things I love. And I think that's the message I want them to get. And it's trying to get that balance between doing those things you love and still creating that space and time to spend time with them.
You're absolutely right. But you also need to get across, and not you, needs to get across, that sometimes you have to do stuff you don't like.
Mate, absolutely,
Because life sometimes is shit. And, when your car needs fixing, there's only one way you can pay for it, and that's by earning money. So the Asian people are fantastic at this. They understand the value of working hard, and I think part of what's gone wrong or going wrong in this country is we've lost the ability to understand the value of hard work. So I knew my mum had to work hard because I knew that the electricity had to be paid for. My kids know that I had to work hard because they know that our rent had to be paid, our mortgage had to be paid, and we had to pay for the things we have to pay for. I think there's an element of society now that believes there is an entitlement to get stuff paid for without the hard work. And people say, and I understand mental health, and I understand all the things that are going on, and we hear it on the radio, and I'm certainly not a everyone swinging the lead type of person. I have enough demons in my head to know that demons in your head can cause you problems, and I fight with those demons on a daily basis. And I also know that they're from my childhood that we've just briefly gone about, and I can give you stories that make your hair curl. And I fight with those demons on a daily basis. But the one thing my parents did teach me, and I am very grateful for, is that no one owes you anything. No one owes you a living. If you want a living, go and earn it. If you want something, go and earn it. Do not expect somebody to give you something that you have not earned. And one of the things I taught my children was a work ethic. So I'm not the most sympathetic person when people say, oh, this hurts or that hurts. I had a car crash when I was 18 years old. I can't write with my right arm properly because of my car crash. It hasn't stopped me working. I can't run because I've got a false knee. Hasn't stopped me working. I did everything, you just ignore it. But I could have gone the other way and swung the lead, and nobody owes you anything. You have to earn it. And we have, in this society, there is a safety net, and we have that safety net, social security. I think they still call it social security. I don't know. And the safety net is there. We just have to argue about at what point it is. And we all need that safety net at times, and I understand that, and I agree with that 100%. But no matter what, I'm going to go back a bit now. I told you at the very beginning that my brother had a car crash when he was 18.
Yeah.
My mum had to carry him up and down the stairs for the first 6 months after the car crash, and then he got some compensation, and then from the car crash, and he bought a bungalow. So we lived in my brother's bungalow for 15 years or whatever because he couldn't walk up and down the stairs. It was about 5 years before he was able to walk properly, and he was what we used to call mentally disabled. don't know what you call it now, but anyway, there'd be a PC term to call it. But he was mentally disabled. He had brain damage. He used to be very forgetful. He used to talk like he had a cleft palate because half his top of his palate was cut away because of the accident. So he couldn't speak properly, so he couldn't understand him very well. But he went and worked at a dairy, Cornford's Dairy in Peacehaven, which was just down the road from my house. And he worked at Cornford's Dairy, washing bottles, unpaid, to prove that he could work. And then he got a job at Vacco's, which is a flask factory in Newhaven. And he was paid for that. And he was paid half the money that an able-bodied person would be paid, because he could only do half the work. That wouldn't be allowed now, but that's what he did. And he did it because he wanted dignity. He wanted dignity in employment. And he worked until he was made redundant at Vacco's. And then he got a job at what was called a Sheltered Workshops. Castle Industries it was. I think they're still going in Brighton. It's under a different name. Where disabled people would work there, and they'd put badges together and do lots of different things, stuff like factory work and stuff like that. And he worked for them for 20 years. He'd get a bus to work every morning, but he'd walk from his home in Peacehaven to Saltdean, and then from work he'd go to bingo. And he would spend all his money he earned at bingo every week, and got drunk and enjoyed himself, and then got a bus back home. And everyone on the bus knew him as, Sid, disabled Sid. And he wasn't a brilliant life because he was disabled, and there was obviously lots of issues, but he had dignity in work. And that is what we seem to have lost in this country. The dignity of work, the fact that we go to work, earn a good day's living, and go home at the end of the day. He had that dignity. And so many people say, I can't work because. Don't give me I can't work because. Give me a reason you can work. I can work. He couldn't walk properly. He couldn't use his right arm or his left, anyway, one of his arms. I can't remember which one now. He couldn't use it. He was one-handed. But he still managed to do his shirt up, and we'd have to help him do his top collar up. We'd have to help him dry his back because he couldn't use a towel like the rest of us could use. He had to use special shoes because one shoe had to be higher than the other shoe because he walked with a limp because of the accident. Nowadays he got full mobility allowance, but he couldn't drive a car because of his mental impairment. But he had dignity in work.
Okay, I just wanted to say something about one of our sponsors, Search 7. They are a search marketing agency for social good. They elevate brands' online exposure locally, nationally and globally through strategic SEO and paid media consultancy. They specialise in many different sectors, including charities, e-commerce, travel, health and medical education, and professional and creative services. They also give agencies and charities the exposure they deserve via their hosted agency and charity events, helping to build community and connections. Their pledge is the inspiration behind their name. Since they started in 2011, they have pledged to give back 7% of their profits to charity. This has become a minimum of 7% each year, with their current fundraising surpassing £150,000 in support of 63 charities. Their latest campaign, #Share177k, aims to raise £177,000 by the end of 2026 to mark their 15th birthday. It's a pleasure to have them as part of the Series 7 of the podcast. I'm delighted. Thanks so much for your support.
And I guess it's down to some of it is, and I think whatever we face in life, whatever challenges or traumas or physical, mental struggles, whatever those are, there is so much I think, and my my work in this space and trying to the people I've spoke to have been through some traumatic things in their life, and you listen to that and you go, there is still a point where we make a choice, right? And I think what you're trying to get at is that we still do have a choice, whatever that looks like. Maybe that I can't do X, Y, and Z. I can't do X, Y, and Z. But there is always a choice to go. Like you said, there will be something. I mean, it's like the people, I guess, paraplegics who go and are in go to the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
The Paralympics, and you can, these things can happen. Something can happen in your life, car accident, whatever that may be, that will stop you from doing certain things. But there's always a way to do something else, right? There's always another option to find whatever that path is. Rob Starr said it to me on here. And Rob's done some amazing things.
He's brilliant.
The channel, and he's done. But I remember he's got Crohn's disease, and I remember him saying, I wanted to swim the channel, and he went from not swimming to swimming for 2 years, and then he went to swim the channel. Because of his Crohn's, he couldn't get across. He got 8 hours in, and they had to pull him out because he just didn't have the energy. He couldn't eat properly, so he didn't have the energy. Didn't stop him doing. I want to swim the channel, and I'm going to swim the channel. Right? So for him to do that, he then done a relay. So he still got from England to France, and he swam it in a relay. And because of his Crohn's, he couldn't do the full thing on his own. But he done. So there's always a way, and there's a choice. And I think from listening to what you're saying and how you're talking about your brother, for me, that's the message I'm getting from that, and from what I learned from Rob. I think on that particular moment, there is a choice, and it's up there how we choose to.
I'm particularly inspired by my wife, and she's seen me go through all sorts of emotional things, as you can imagine, over 35 years, and she's still there, amazingly. And she has the ability to never judge, and I'm a bit judgy. One of my faults, one of my many faults. We haven't got long enough in the podcast to talk about all my faults. But she never judges anyone, which is amazing. People going through shit, she doesn't judge them. And we fostered for 8 years, and she was the most amazing mum, the amazing foster parent, the amazing grandmother you could ever imagine. And yeah, she's just inspirational for me. And I wish I could be like her. I mean, she annoys the hell out of me sometimes because she leaves crap everywhere in the house, and she's a hoarder. But apart from that, but absolutely amazing, and I wouldn't change her for the world. And then at work, another inspiration, my general manager. She's a young lady, absolutely brilliant, and she says to me when we go through shit at work, and she says to me that everyone has a choice. We all have a choice. Exactly what you were saying. Go on, explain. I've got this 28-year-old telling me, 61-year-old fart telling me, you've got a choice on how you deal with this. Everyone has a choice on how they react, on how you deal with something. When you go through all these things that are happening to you, you have a choice on how to deal with them. You have a choice. My brother had a choice. He could have stayed at home watching TV all day long, feeling sorry for himself. He didn't. He had tough times. He did feel sorry for himself quite a lot of the time, but he had a choice, and he got up and he went to work, and he got that dignity in work. And you have a choice on everything you do every day. Sometimes it's really difficult to make the right choice, but you have to do it. And that's the thing.
I think the thing that comes out for me of that is Charlie Maxey said there's a quote in the book The Boy about, and it says our greatest freedom in life is how we react to things. And
It's a choice.
It's a choice. I think there's one thing I just want to if we can, I just still want to touch on. You talked about some demons and things like that, but like your relationship with your parents. As you become an adult, did you still have a good relationship with your dad? And
Dad died when I was 17. Okay. And my mum died when I was 30. So I had a pretty good relationship with my mum. Obviously loved her to bits. My dad, I was too young. No, I didn't have a particularly good relationship with my dad. And it was tough. And the regrets is that we never got to properly reconcile. Because the things that happen, but they're, I've forgiven, I've forgiven my dad for how he was, because I think you have to. But he was a product of the 1930s. It's how they were. Everyone came out the Second World War with PTSD. Whether it was my mum, who was brought up in an orphanage and left the orphanage and went to go and sew army uniforms up, and then she was working on the roofs, watching. She grew up in Manchester, watching bombs being dropped on the roofs and putting fires out on roofs in Manchester. Whether it was my dad, who got his thumb shot off on the MTB boats and saw his best mate's head got blown off, got shot off. You come out of that situation with PTSD. And now, thank God, that we tend to try and look after our veterans a lot better than we certainly used to. Now they got a suit and a fiver or whatever it was when they got demobbed, told you to go off and do what it is you've got to go and do, and then we wondered why they used to beat us as children. And that's why.
Because I guess again, back to what you referenced earlier, that with the tools that we've got, all we can do is the best we can with what we've got in front of us. And I guess you mentioned about forgiveness. I guess the element of forgiveness that you're able to get to that point is because your own learnings through life and bringing up your own kids and doing, actually, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm going to do things, but I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. And I guess listening to you talk, he's done the best he could with what he got at that time, what his skill set was at the time.
My dad went to work every day to put money on the table, to put food in our mouths, and he thought he was doing absolutely the right thing. And then when we did something wrong, he did what he thought was the right thing to do by teaching us right from wrong. And rightly or wrongly, that's it's taken me 60 years to realise it wasn't right. If you'd have asked me 15 years ago, it never did me any harm. Yeah, it did. It did, and I'm still suffering on a daily basis. But you asked me right at the beginning, because this is a podcast about success. I haven't spoken much about success. It's spoken about demons and all sorts of things and everything. But it's all that which has made me the person I am today.
But and that's the reason I start with that question. But then because I try, and for everyone's life, like you said, everyone has a story to tell, right? So trying to understand someone's story and where that mindset comes from, that drive and ambition and all of them things that mould us. It often, I always want to go back to the beginning, because trying to understand because everything that happens when we're younger helps to shape the people we are, and not only from our upbringing, but then through our business journey, through our lives, all of that helps to shape where we are right this second. So I'm trying to get more of an understanding of you as an individual and where that drive, and at 61 years old still go, I'm going to get up and do these things, and the lessons you learn is getting that understanding. So I guess it's fascinating. It always fascinates me, like I said, people's different upbringings, and like I say, I find I grew up with unconditional love. So I never had experience. I can't comprehend that, and I've hopefully taken that onto my kids as well. But I guess like and we will move off of this in a sec. But I guess if you was to be able to, you said you never had a chance to reconcile, but if you had the opportunity to speak to him now with the lessons that you've learned, what would you say to him?
I'd give him a hug, tell him I love him.
I guess again about choice and where we are in life. You go through and you made a choice to not act like that with your kids, I guess. Yeah. And that alone is success, eh?
Yeah, it is.
let's go on. We'll move on to where we are, that business journey. You've taken all of these lessons that you've learned growing up. You've gone into, in 1995, 30 years, as you said, 30 years, right, in business. 30 years. You made a decision. You didn't want to live the life like you, or you didn't want your kids to have a life like you did growing up. I want to make that. I made that choice. Back to the choice thing. Started out in 1995 with your father-in-law. Was that right at the time?
Yes.
1995.
So 1995. Father-in-law had been made redundant. Lived in Cardiff. My wife's Welsh. Met her when I was in the Territorial Army, and so she moved down here with me, and I was working, had a business, and then I was working for another sign company, and it's too long to talk about that little bit of journey, so we'll just jump to 30 years ago, and I said, I'm going to start in business, and he went, okay, blah blah blah, and I said, why don't you come down? Move down, so then you could be closer to Lou and the grandchildren. We'll start a sign company. He said, I don't know anything about signs. I said, no, but you're quite handy and you're quite tidy, and I'm a sort of an engineer and I know a little bit about signs. So he said, back in the day we just started putting stripes on the side of cars, to be honest. But do you remember the Go Faster stripes?
Yeah.
And that's how it was. And we put Go Faster stripes on the side of cars. And we built it up, and I said, let's start. So I did a business plan, and it was quite funny because I did this business plan, and I said, according to this business plan, we're not gonna make the first year because fuck it, let's do it anyway. Just did it. So we did it, and he's a great guy, absolutely fantastic guy. He'd learnt a lot. He'd been a manager at bingo clubs and stuff, so his managerial. I learnt a lot from him. But I've always been quite keen. Part of my journey when I was a little, and didn't have any money. You know that. I've gone through that. So I used to go around the street, and I used to see old knackered bikes in people's gardens and stuff, and I used to knock on the door and say, Can I borrow you? Can I have your bike? It's knackered. He said, yeah, take it away. Blah, blah. I used to strip it down, clean it up, buy a spray can from Halfords, and then get it all good, and then sell it. And that's how I used to earn sort of like my pocket money, because my parents didn't have any pocket money to give me. And I've always been that sort of entrepreneurial, sort of like trying to earn a crust, bit of wheeling and dealing, and having to act like that, and bit Arthur Daly, but there's a cross between Arthur Daly and Del Boy sort of in there somewhere. Always looking.
Two legends there, mate.
Well, always looking for that angle to try and earn a little bit of money, and it was just the way it had to be, because you just had to earn a crust. There was no money there. And that's how we did it. And I wanted nice things, and I wanted a bike, so I had to go and buy one. And the only way I was going to buy one was earn the money to buy one, so I earned the money to buy one. Just that takes me, entrepreneurial spirit. Never ask a drug taker how he's going to get his next hit. He'll find the money from somewhere. That's the thing. He'll find the money from somewhere. Going back. I've lost my train of thought now. Thinking, where was I?
So you're talking about your father-in-law. You started out.
Father-in-law, back to work. Yes. So we started and went out. Didn't have anything really. Went out, bag of stripes in the boot of the car, going to garages and saying to garage owners, that car looks a bit naff. Do you want me to put a stripe on the side of it for you to make it look better? And they go, yeah, okay. I'll charge a tenner for that. There's a tenner, and then it built up from there. And then they said, do you want to put the price down the side of the vehicle? Do you remember the price? They still do it now. Price down the side of the vehicle. Didn't have a computer to do it with, but I used to go and use another sign company to cut the price for me. I'd pay them, and then I'd go and fit the prices on the side of the cars. And that's how the Sussex Sign Company started 30 years ago. And I always used to say to him on the way home, one more call. And he'd go, why one more call? I say, you never know, we might get another job on a one more call. And the amount of times we actually got a piece of work from one more call on the way home. And he used to get really pissed off at me because he used to like going home and getting home. And I said, we'd be driving home and I said, let's just stop at this garage here. He'd go, oh no, why are we stopping there? Just, you never know. And I go in and half an hour later I come out and say, we've got a job, come on, let's go and go this too. Let's go and put the stripe on the side of the car. He said, what's that? He said, they've got to pay us 20 quid for this, it's going to be great. And that's tomorrow's fuel. That's tomorrow's petrol.
What a lesson. What a lesson to people to listen, and you're hearing out. Like, I'm going to ask you, like, someone listening to this now, thinking about starting a business. Do you think that art of selling, that art of that one more call, do you think that art's been lost a little bit over the years?
Yeah, they're always looking for, even I do it. It's you're always looking for the easy way. You know, shoe leather, knock on doors. We used to be driving down the street. I say, stop. He go, what? Fucking hell, no, why you just pull over? I said, why are we stopping? He said, that sign on top of that butcher's, I can remember this because I did it in Sussex. Sign on top of the butcher's, yeah, what about it? It's shit, isn't it? Yeah. So, well, I want to go and sell them one that isn't. And I walk in there and I go, hello, mate, my name's Norm, here's my card. Your sign. He go, yeah, it's shit, isn't it? And he go, well, yeah. So, do you want me to do it so it's nice? And they go, well, how much for it? How much? And I go, oh, do it for you for 500 quid. Oh, all right, 500 quid. I'll do it. Now, not every time. If I stopped at 10 places and said that, 9 of them tell me to fuck off. But one of them would give me a job. You know, people don't do that anymore. I can remember, I've got a story about, so there used to be a company called Multilink. Some of your listeners might remember it. They used to sell vehicles. And I used to go into Multilink every single week. And I'd go to the salesman, I'd go, hi, my name's Norm, blah, 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 blah. I started off and I'd go in there, I'd say, I do signs, and you sell vehicles, you sell, and they were leasing, it was when leases came out in vans, you sell vans, leases, why don't you sell them with sign writing on the side of the vehicle? And they'd go, yeah, we do, we've got a tie-in with XYZ company. I said, yeah, but why don't you use me as well? I said, I'm not interested in using you, we're loyal to this company. I said, right, great, that's not a problem. And I just knew that this company, they sold, because I sort of asked them a question, how many vehicles do you sell? Oh, we sell about 100 vehicles a month. Well, that's 1,200 vehicles. If they sold sign writing on half those vehicles, that's 600 vehicles a year. Well, that's 10 vehicles a week. I couldn't cope with 10 vehicles a week. That would make us rich. So I kept going in week after week after week after week. 18 months. 18 months, and I got a phone call. And they went, Norm, because I used to get to the stage where I'd go in and they'd go, piss off, Norm, why are you here? Or I got to the stage I'd go in and say, want a coffee? Yeah, I'll have a coffee. But sitting there never give me any work. Never. 18 months I was doing it for. And I went in there. Well, I didn't go in there. They phoned me up and we had these big house bricks as mobile phones. And we were like, hello. And it's great because you walk down the street and I'm on this mobile phone. And they phoned me up and they said, Norm, they said, got this job. It's Friday morning it was. Got this job. Company we've normally used has let us down and he's going on holiday and he can't do it. And he said he'd do it, but he can't do it. He said, do you want it? I went, yeah, what is it? He said, he told me what it was. Forget what it was. Let's say it was Sam Thomas Plumbing or whatever. Sam Thomas Plumbing. I said, great. He said, how much will you charge me? He said, well, how much was the other company going to charge you? He said, well, that's not normally how it works, is it? I said, I don't care. I said, I'm going to prove to you that I can do this job right. You're going to tell me how much to charge you. And then you're going to promise me that the next job that you want, you won't give it to this other company, you'll give it to me. They spent £60,000 with me in the next year.
Wow. I'll tell you what, for people listening, there's something that's come to my mind. Denzel Washington said it on this post the other day, right? And it said you can't start anything without commitment, right?
Yeah.
To start something, you need to be committed. So you can't start something. but you won't finish anything. You won't do anything without consistency.
Yeah.
Like listening to you talk about that, I'm like, consistency. Just that, because how many people? I'm sure we've all been guilty of it, me included. You do something, it doesn't work. You go, won't do that again.
Yeah.
But to have that level of, and that delayed gratification as well, which we've lost a little bit in the world. Especially, I look at my kids and I'm like, just wait for something, like work hard,
save up for it.
save for something. Yeah. I'll tell you a story about the kids. Actually, they done that they wanted these toy horses, right? 60, it's only a few weeks ago. 60 quid each. I'm like, get for your birthday. Like, yeah, we don't wait for our birthday. Then you got to go and sort out. Ended up getting a load of their old toys together. Went down to Beach Hut, and they'd done a beach sale, and they sold them. They give a little bit to Rocking Horse Children's Charity, and the rest they kept. And I said, if you get enough money to get a horse, I'll get you one each. So you got, and they done it in 3 weekends. Brilliant. They went down Saturday, Sunday, the following Saturday.
You have taught them one of the most valuable lessons that you could ever teach them. It's been brilliant. That is fantastic.
It's great, isn't it?
Just
honestly,
fantastic.
I was one of them. I could not have been proud of them. They got to that moment. They made 60 quid. And I said, there you go. And I ordered them there, and they got that. But it took them to do that, and they had to be there. Was a couple of days. They stood. They go, we don't know what to do. I say, listen, you're on a market stall. Pretend you just got to show out. I'll show you how to do it. When to do it? They don't know. You're embarrassing us. Well, you got to do it then. Both of them standing there going, big beach sale, toys for sale, 20% to Rocking Horse Charity. I had my card machine as well. They went cash and card payments.
But that's exactly it. So
consistency. Well, that's the thing. Like what you've said to me. That's what I take from it. That Like, how many people would have given up after 6 months, after 12 months, 18 months, 60 grand? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Bang. So I'm still the same at work now. So I take the phone calls. I was talking to a guy last week on the phone, and I'm chatting away to him. He wants his van done, and I'm taking him on this journey. And I've never ripped anyone off in my life, so that's the thing. But I'm taking him on this journey about how fantastic his van's going to look, and it's going to be absolutely brilliant, and we're going to make his van look fantastic. And it's going to cost, I forget, 800 quid. It's going to cost 800 quid to get his van done, and blah, blah, blah. And this is what we do. We take a 50% deposit, and would you want to pay the deposit, blah, 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 blah. And yep, great. I've got the credit card, the machine. I put that deposit. It's brilliant. I put the phone down. And oh my God, what a buzz. 30 years later, I still get the same buzz. But what was really funny is one of my other sales guys come over to me, and he put a picture of Arthur Daly on my desk. He went, you are unreal. You're still doing it 30 years later. Picture of Arthur Daly.
You know what? I'm sitting, and one of the reasons I was so excited to get you on, like, sitting opposite you now and looking in your eye and seeing the enthusiasm after 30 years.
Yeah.
Back to what I said before, right? One of these 3 elements of success. Love what you do.
Yep.
And I had the same feeling the first time we met at the Sussex Chamber event. Like, you've just got this infectious enthusiasm about you. And when we met at Soho House and we've had a couple of coffees and we've met up and had a chat, just, you can see you light up as you're talking about it. Like, back to purpose, loving what you do. Like, mate, if it still stops now, that is success, right?
Yeah, it is. But that's the define. So I used to have this thing in my head about getting to 2 million quid. This obsession with getting 2 million quid. And that's changing recently. It's changing, hasn't helped by the government changing what they're doing and the costs and everything of running a business and the stress of everything. And what I want to do now, I have changed in the last few weeks at work what I'm trying to establish, and I want people to walk into my office and go, wow, I like this. This is impressive. I want to do business with this company. One of the mantras that we have, I mean, they call them mission statements, don't they, nowadays? But one of the mantras we have, I want to be the kind of place that everybody wants to work for and the kind of business that everybody wants to do business with. If I can achieve those 2 things, so that people say in Brown Brighton and Sussex, oh, do you know a sign company? Yeah, the Sussex Sign Company. Well, not Norman. Norman's team are fantastic. Use the Sussex Sign Company. And then the minute somebody says, I want a job, and they're in my game, they phone me up because they say, Norman, I want to work for the Sussex Sign Company. That, to me, would be success.
You're talking there about culture, right? The culture that you want to create within the environment. Has that? How has that changed over 30 years? When you first started out, was that mantra in your head then? That's what you wanted to create?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, something we've not spoken about. I was a car mechanic when I left school, and I was quite a good one. I was all right. Wasn't Formula One style, you know. I could fix cars, and I was actually better at breakdowns than anything. So I could get them started again, which is always good. Then I got a job as an AA patrol, which was fantastic. That's, you know, if there's one regret, and although intrinsically I'm an entrepreneur, but if there's one regret, it's probably not staying as an AA patrol, because I used to love going out and helping people. I just used to love it. There was no better feeling in the world than rocking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with someone stuck on the side of the road and being devastated that their car doesn't work, and you get their car working. One, it feeds your ego like nobody's business that you've been able to do that. Two, they're really pissed off when you get there, but really happy when they leave. And three, it's just a nice feeling to help people, isn't it? You know, so that's what I used to do, and so I went from that. And part of the AA mantra is looking after people and helping people. And the customer service training in the AA back in those days, I mean, I think it's different now, but back in those days was massive, just immense. And I learned all my customer service skills from how to run the Sussex Sign Company from the AA. And it's all about customer service, it's all about helping people. And we've carried that all the way through to what we do at the Sussex Sign Company. So everything I say to people at the Sussex Sign Company, customer service, helping people, making sure we do the right thing. We give a guarantee, but our guarantee is not worth the paper it's written on, because our guarantee is far better than the guarantee that's what's written down. You know, someone phoned me up the other day, and we buy a lot of our stuff in, and we don't make it all ourselves now. We buy it in from really good suppliers around the country. 3.5 years ago, I fitted a sign, and it started to corrode. He sent me a picture of it. He said, "Should this happen after 3.5 years?" I went, "No." "But it's out of guarantee, isn't it?" "Yeah." He went, "Oh, okay, what are we going to do?" I said, "I'm going to change it." And I phone up my supplier and go, "This shouldn't have happened." And they go, "Oh, it's out of guarantee." I said, "Bollocks. You know, I spend £50,000 a year with them. Yeah. You will fix this." You will fix this. Of course they're going to fix it. And we went and took it down, and we're going to go back, we're going to fix it, we're going to put it back up again. That's customer service. That's what we do, and that's how we do it. You know, if you have that kind of mantra, that's always been the way we've done things right from day one. We didn't have the fancy words, you know, but that's always been the way we do things, because that was what I was taught with the AA. You help people.
And customer service, like even that, like someone said one of the very first episodes, the first series of it, I spoke to a guy who sold his business, and he was he'd been running it for a similar amount of time, like 30 years, sold it, made a lot of money, but come away. But he was saying along these lines, like this meant, and maybe again has that been lost slightly, but that customer service, we said, when was the last time you had really good customer service where you really go, I've got that kind of, and there is sometimes potentially that, again, we're in this fast-paced world where things are online, you don't have to deal with people as much, and there's AI bots and all of the stuff, that there's something still, that human connection, people by people, whatever business we're in.
People are scared of using the telephone. We employ people who have got degrees in X, Y, and Z, and they sit at the desk, and they say, "I've sent them an email." What bollocks is that? Pick the phone up. "Oh, I don't use the phone." "Why not?" "I don't know what they might. I don't really want to use the phone." Pick the fucking phone up. Talk to them. "Hi Sam, it's Norm, Sussex Sign Company. How you doing, mate? All right?" Yeah, I'm doing all right, Norm. "Great. This sign, do you fucking want it or not?" You can't put that in an email.
Yeah.
You cannot put that in an email.
But let me ask you that though. But then there's the only way you've got the ability to do that, I don't know, and correct me if I'm what I'm asking, is we go back to relationships, right? You've got to be able to have a relationship, a rapport with someone to be able to pick the phone up and have that conversation, right?
But you build that rapport, don't you? And the only way to build that rapport, pick the bloody phone up. You can't build rapport over text messages, WhatsApp messages, and emails. You can only build rapport over the phone, face to face, or talking. So you meet people. We met each other at a Chamber of Commerce do.
Yeah.
And we sat there. It was a wine tasting. I didn't drink.
Why
would I go to a wine tasting when I don't drink alcohol? So there's me not drinking, sitting there. And you said to me at the time, "You're not drunk." No, I don't drink. It's just, but I think there was cheese there, so I think I was going for the cheese.
Yeah. Me and you, we shared a lot of love for the cheese there, mate.
Yeah, we shared a lot of love for the cheese. But we built a connection. Now that was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, nearly 2 years.
2 years ago we built a connection, and since then we've met 2 or 3 times. We've met several different dudes. We always say hello, blah, blah, blah. You're building that rapport and we're building that connection. It's a slow burn. Yeah. People don't want to do the slow burn. One of the things I say to people all the time when I'm trying to teach people how to sell, and when I'm trying to teach people what to do in business, I say it's the hard work that makes the selling easy. And they go, "What do you mean?" So you put in all the hard work at the beginning. You do that. You meet someone. After I met you, if you gave me a card, you would have gone into our into our database. Then you would have started getting our emails. And then another meeting, we've got this connection. You're getting our emails. I meet you. We say hello. Blah blah blah. We have that conversation. We have a cup of coffee. You know, we have this connection. Somebody may say to you, a lot of your friends, a lot of your people that in your circle are people who are also in my circle, and you know these people, and you have conversations with them, and you might mention me to them. We both know Matt, and he sailed the Atlantic. We signed his boat. Yeah. What a leader! What a fantastic leader! What a legend! Absolutely brilliant. So I met him through rugby and then through business. But then I know that he's involved with you. It just so happens he used to play rugby with my mate who bought into my business back in 2008, which is another podcast, when it all went tits up the last time that the world went wrong. And we've all got these, we're only 7 degrees of separation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
7 degrees of separation. We all know each other. We all know each other.
And I reckon in Brighton it's probably a little bit less than that. Right?
It's probably a little bit less. Everybody knows everybody else in Brighton, and we have these connections, and people by people, and the only way you can talk to somebody like that, obviously I wouldn't pick the phone up and say, "What the fuck are you doing about this?" The only way you can have that rapport with people is by getting to know them. And you can get to know them over the telephone, over a period of time, and you can become really good friends with your clients, And there is no one worse than me that when I lose a client, I am devastated. And I put everyone on my team through the ringer if I find out we've lost a client. Because obviously, £1 million a year is a lot of sticky back plastic, as you can imagine. Yeah. On average, we do 150 jobs a month. So, in simple arithmetic, that's 1,800 jobs a year. I can't physically be involved with all of those jobs anymore as much as I want to be. So if you, let's say for instance, one of my customers, can't name them, but one of my customers been my customer for 10 years. Became really good friends with the managing director. Again like you, meeting at different venues and everything. But he passed his sign writing side of the gig. He doesn't organise it anymore because he's earning millions, and I don't do the work anymore because I've got better things to do, like try and pay the VAT and things like that. So my guys at work is dealing with his guys at work. I saw on Facebook they'd had another vehicle sign written. I know we didn't do it. I phoned him up. I went, "Mate, what's happened?" And he going, "Oh yeah, sorry Norm." We said, "Yeah, we haven't fallen out or anything. It's just that my business is now being run by X person, and he's got a mate who does design and sign writing. So he said, can I give my mate a call?" And he said, "I've got to really let him run it, haven't I? So why give him a go? He can do it, so he's got him to do it. No hard feelings and all that. I put the phone down. I went to my team. What the fuck? What the fuck has happened there? And they've gone, oh yeah, but we haven't done much for them lately. Yeah, but there's a reason we haven't done much for them lately. Why aren't we contacting them? Why aren't we speaking to them? Why didn't you keep on top of that? That annoys the fuck out of me, that does.
I just wanted to take a moment to talk about one of our sponsors, Nostos, an authentic experience of Greece right here in the heart of Hove. In a world brimming with dining options, finding that one place that captivates your palate and heart isn't always easy. It's about more than food. It's the stories, the ambience, the slice of another world. This is the essence of Nostos, an award-winning Greek restaurant. With traditional recipes passed down through generations, each dish promises a story and a piece of heritage. And Nostos is more than just a restaurant, it's a community contributor. Each dining experience supports initiatives close to their heart, from local charities to cultural events, enriching Brighton and Hove's social fabric. They also provide catering services, bringing Greek cuisine to your personal events. For a taste of Greece without leaving town, visit nostos-hove.co.uk. And when you do go, say Sam recommended the feta nests. Oh my God, they are amazing.
Talk to me then about, because as a leader, what's your because we don't. This is another thing. We don't get trained at school to be leaders, right? To lead, and you start a business, and then all of a sudden you got 2 members of staff, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever that looks like, and they grow. How has your leadership style, I guess, changed? Has it changed from 30 years to where you are now? What makes a good leader?
Oh, what makes a good leader? Well, I don't know, because am I a good leader? I don't know. You have to ask my team that. There's certain members of my someone told me they were going to eat my heart out with a spoon once. Yeah, wow. When I sacked him, he said, "I'm going to come back and I'm going to eat your heart out with a spoon." Okay, that's quite good. That's because I wouldn't give him a sub. I did give him a sub. I gave him a sub every single month, every single week, for about 3 months, and then he came in showing everybody, because he used to tell me that he was to take his daughter out at the weekend, which I used to give him a sub for. It wasn't a problem. And then he'd come in, and then obviously we'd deduct the money from his wages at the end of the month. And then he'd come in, and he's got this tattoo all down his arm. I went, "Oh, you've got a new tattoo?" He said, "Yeah, it's good, innit?" I said, "Yeah, it's good. How much was that?" He said, "Oh, only 450 quid or whatever it was." Right, okay. And then the next day, he asked me for a sub. I went, "What?" He went, "Can I have a sub?" I said, "What do you need a sub for?" "I want to take my daughter out the weekend." I went, "Nah, mate, sorry, you've got to start learning. You've got to start learning that actually your daughter's more important than your tattoo. So you're not getting a sub. You're going to have to explain to your daughter why you can't take her out this weekend." And he walked out, and he come back in, and he told me, "I'm going to come back and I'm going to eat your heart out with a spoon." I said, "Well, okay, maybe." So I've had lots of them over the years. So what makes a good leader? When I first started the Sussex Sign Company, I was a bit autocratic. I'd been in the Territorial Army, so I knew deference. I had people that you respected because of their position. That's pretty much how it was as I grew up. We're talking a lifetime ago, aren't we? So things were different. Certainly I was with my father. I was terrified of him. Certainly with my mum. My mum knocked my tooth out once. Have I told you this story?
No.
So I was being bullied at school. So yeah, it's just another story of the broken childhood that I had. So I was being bullied at school, and everyone was bullied at school back when I was a kid. So it wasn't just me; everyone was bullied. Even the bullies were bullied. They were just bullied by people who were bigger than them. And this kid was bullying me, and I didn't want to go to school when I was being bullied. And I thought I had this loose tooth. I thought, I've got this loose tooth. So any excuse. So I went to my mum, and I went, "Well, look, I've got a loose tooth." She said, "Well, what's up with a loose tooth?" So I said, "My tooth hurts. So right, okay, well, get ready for school. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I went to the loo, made an excuse, pretended I was being sick, all the usual stuff that you do when you're being bullied to not go to school. And I was really pissing my mum off. And she was getting, I could tell she was getting frustrated. Well, I didn't tell she was getting this frustrated, but I could tell she was getting frustrated. Look, you've got to get ready, you've got to go to school. And really, she was going to school. She wanted me to go to school. She was going out, usual sort of thing. I need to go out, blah, 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 you've got to go to school. No, Mum, I take It's only junior school. So I was about 8 or 9 years old. And we used to walk to school then. We didn't get driven in Chelsea tractors like I do now. It was go to school, get off on the way to school. And I frustrated her that much. She smacked me around the side of the face. And as she smacked me around the side of the face, she knocked my tooth out. And I look, and so my tooth come out. Do you know what she said? You can go to fucking school now, can't you? So she sent me off to school. Wow. And she gave me a hanky to stop the blood coming out. She put the blood on her thing and she said, fuck off to school. So anyway, I went to school. So anyway, that's sort of like, so I grew up leadership. So when I first started in the Sussex Sign Company, that's how I was. I was quite tough. You know, you don't have time off, you turn up, you wear your uniform, you turn up, you're 8:30, you're ready for work, blah, blah. And I've got a lot softer over the years because I've realised you get actually more out of people as you, from collaboration, rather than bullying doesn't work. Things have changed. Society's changed, hasn't it? Society's changed. So, what makes a good leader? Empathy, understanding, a sense of purpose. Lead by the front, but don't. I'm not a leader or a manager that says I won't expect my team to do anything I wouldn't do. I'm not one of those. There's a lot of people out there like that, and I understand, and that certainly used to be the way people used to manage. I won't expect any of my staff to do anything I wouldn't do. You know, it's a great statement, isn't it? Yeah. I know I will because I can't do it now. You know, at the end of the day, surround yourself with people who are better than you. My manager's better than I could ever be as a manager. My designer's better than I could ever be as a designer. My sign fitters are better than I can ever be as sign fitters. My vehicle wrappers are better than I can ever be as. The only thing I've got left is my ability to sell. And even that I'm not very good at. You know, just surround yourself with people who are better, but manage to draw the best out of them. And try and inspire, and it doesn't always work, but try and inspire your team to work together and to grow the business. And that's the only way you can really do it, as far as I'm concerned.
How do you, as someone listening who's a leader, how do you inspire? How do you inspire a team to work together and collaborate in that way?
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to ask me this question, and I don't know. Is the truth? I want to come up. I really want to come up with something that is, oh my God, Norman's a guru. I ain't a guru. I listen to Jimmy Carr's on his Diary of a CEO podcast. Oh my God, that man is so intelligent. I've read all the books. I've read all the guru books that you can ever shake a stick at. You know, I've read them all. And how do you inspire? I think you inspire by being the real you. It's the only way you can do it. So, because for somebody who left school like I left, I'm moderately successful. My school put a picture of me on the wall. Yeah? So, you know, how much better does it get than that? So my school's put a picture of me on the wall and it's turned around, I'm one of their alumni. But I didn't go to Eton, you know, there isn't a picture of me as Prime Minister on the wall, and I'm not Alan Sugar, and I'm not, you know, Richard Branson, and I'm none of this stuff. And so the guy who started Focus, what was his name?
Chris Goodman. And Ralph Gilbert.
Chris and Ralph Goodman, right? So let me tell you a little story about Chris and Ralph Goodman. back in 2003, we'd been going eight years. I won the Sussex Small Business of the Year award, and amazing. What an achievement. After 8 years, I was going places. Everything I touched was going to turn to gold. It's going to be brilliant. I was going to be the next Richard Branson, and I'm going to be fantastic. Oh, if only life was like that. Eh? So 2003, I won that. And then a couple of years later, the people who did the award, which was EDF, they gave me a ring. They gave me the award. They gave me a ring. And they said, we'd like you to be one of the judges. And they said, because every year from them, we've sponsored the same award. And every time we go to that award, we're looking for Norman. We are looking for Norman. And we want you to come and be a judge. And I went, yeah, that's me. I'm good here. I'm so good. I'm now going to be a judge. Forget I had a business to run, but I'm going to be a judge for the Sussex Small Business of the Year. And during that judging process, I was being interviewed, or interviewing all the people, along with the other people who are judges. And two likely lads came in. And Chris Goodman
and Ralph Gilbert.
Came in. And they were there, and they'd only been going about a year, 2 years, and they we're gonna. This is what we do. This is our business model. And I was, oh my God. And they went, and I said to the judge, I said, they're the winners. They said, but we haven't seen everyone. I said, I'm telling you now, they are the winners. And they said, what makes you? I said, there is something about those two. Because they used to work for Cavendish Communications. Yeah. They came from Cavendish Communications, set up this thing, this business model, and it was almost like it was a license to print money. And I said to them, I said, oh my God, you've got a license to print money here. And isn't it true? They've gone.
I think as we're sitting now, they're a £1 billion company.
Yeah.
I think. Incredible. Chris
I
has been
judged
on,
them.
Amazing.
I judged them and gave them the Sussex Small Business of the Year award at Focus when EDF was a sponsor 25 years ago.
Amazing.
Or 20 years ago. I forget how long it was now, but whatever, like 18 years ago or whatever it was. But they won the award and I was the judge. I'm still here now, £1 million company, and they're a £1 billion company. So if you say what makes it great, ask them. Don't ask me. But I know Chris Goodman has his issues about everything because I see it on LinkedIn.
And Chris has been on it. And we spoke really openly about we released his episode on World Mental Health Day because he spoke openly about depression and anxiety and struggles. Multi-millionaire, more money than all of his family will ever need for 5 generations.
Yes,
more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what we talked about because that's the because he said once I'd achieved that purpose, lacked that drive. Now he's obviously got the Focus Foundation, a lot of that goes in and his philanthropic arm, I guess, that he gives back and he helps people and stuff. And there's something.
If he wants to help me, I've got a VAT bill I can't afford to pay.
Give him a shout, Chris. If you're listening,
I've got a VAT bill, and I can never bloody afford it. So I mean,
but again, back to that whole definition of success. We're coming towards the end. We're going back to that definition of success, right? And you look at like he did sit opposite me, and he did talk about depression. He talked about anxiety, and he talked about real struggles that he'd been through. And how much that money hadn't bought him the happiness and fulfilment. I sit opposite you, and you've not got a £1 billion company, but you're turning over £1 million. But there's some like the enthusiasm and the excitement that you still. And don't get me wrong, I know we spoke about challenges, and we spoke about other stuff that are tough to deal with and tough things to cope with. But actually, to get up every day and still love what you do at 61 years old after 30 years, something special in that, mate.
I'm very lucky. I am a very, very lucky person. You know, I talk about my childhood, and I talk about the tough bits. There was good bits. I'm a very lucky person. I have been privileged to have two fantastic sons. We fostered children. They were with us through that fostering. They went through some shit with the foster kids. Regrets? It's a tough gig with two kids. I mean, I look back at my kids now. I say, I put you through shit there, and I shouldn't have done. You know, made some decisions about business that has affected them. Made some decisions about life generally. That's, you know, we all make fuck ups. We all cock it up now and again. But it's about that living in the moment, and this is the bit I was talking about my wife. You know, I turned around to my wife once, and I said to her, we bought a hotel in the middle of a lot of shit that was going on once, and she ran that. It's only a small one, but it's a hotel, and she ran it. And I said, if we do this, and it all goes tits up, what are you going to hate me? She said, no, I trust you to make the right decisions, and if you don't make the right decisions, we'll deal with it. We'll deal with it. Now, every successful person I know has someone in the background as their best cheerleader. That's my wife. I have gone through all sorts of shit at work. You know, a lot of shit that I wouldn't even discuss on the podcast that's not for open viewing because it'd affect other people. But without that person who's just at home, that you know you're going to come home and they're not going to say, or they're not going to nag you, that's the first thing. They're just going to know that you're going through shit, and they're just going to let you deal with it, and they're going to support you through that. And we've got, I'm lucky enough to have a place on the Isle of Wight. It's only a caravan, but oh my God, it's our caravan, and it's lovely. And we get away there once a month for a long weekend. And we go away, and me and the wife sit there, and we sit, and it's our happy place. You know, we've got the dogs are crapping everywhere and doing all the things that dogs do and making it all untidy, but it's our happy place. We sit there in a caravan. I take the dogs for a walk, and I absolutely love it. And that, with the person that loves you more than anything else in the world, with dogs that give you unconditional love, in a place that is one of the most beautiful places on the planet, what's not to love?
I love that. There is, and there's something in that, right? There's something in that. People listening to just take so much away, and that's back to that thing, being in that moment, having, and like it doesn't have to be £1 million villa somewhere and the thing. It doesn't have to be this. It's just that, like, I feel the same when I'm sitting there at my beach hut. It's a little beach hut, but you sit there and you just have them little moments, and there's something magical about that. Mate, listen, I could literally talk to you for hours. I love every time we have a conversation, and there's so much. But I do want to, a couple of things before we round up. I do want to look back. All of what you've learned, all over that whole journey, going back to your child right up until now, and if you could go back and talk to a Norman starting out again in business, what would you say to him?
Buy Google shares.
And there you heard it. Gold.
I mean, again, that's a difficult question, but how? Don't worry so much. Because it'll be all right in the end. You know, you go through. You know, I've gone through the sleepless nights. I've cried in the van on my own. I've been frustrated. I've been upset. I've worried to the point of going grey and making myself ill. And I thought about this because obviously I knew I was coming on here, and when we're going through life, anxiety, depression, everybody, it's part of the journey. You know, it's part of the journey. And part of Chris Goodman's anxiety, it'll be, obviously he's got his own story, but a lot of it will be imposter syndrome. You know, we all feel guilty, don't we? How have I got this and someone else hasn't? How have I been able to achieve this and someone else hasn't? You know, my modicum of achievement is massive compared to a lot of people's achievement. And Chris Goodman's achievement is massive compared to my achievement. And then Richard Branson's achievement is massive compared to Chris Goodman's achievement. So it's all relative, you know, but from where I started to where I am is unreal. Absolutely unreal. And, you know, I never thought I would leave school and get to where I am today. You know, I like to think I'm fairly well respected amongst my peers. I've won some local awards. Last year, my business won a national award for the best rollout of graphics in the country. Oh my God. You know, that is like the best awards you could possibly get for my size business. From my industry peers to say, you've made it. This is the best of the best in the country. And my organisation did that, led by me. And getting back to the understanding of bits, I talk about enough a lot. Now, I say to other people who I meet, other business people, you've got to understand what enough is. And people are always searching for something. And it was 3 or 4 years ago, and whilst I'm still ambitious and I'm still enthusiastic, understand that enough is being able to feed your kids. Enough is being able to get in your car and drive it wherever you want to go in the country. Enough is being able to turn the electricity on, having a hot shower, or if you're my son, having 3 a day. Enough is being able to say, should we go for a meal on Saturday night? You know, because if you've got £1 billion in the bank, the car is just a bit bigger. You know, when I go out and I put my watch on, if I go out in the evening, it's a £250 watch. But, you know, I know people with £25,000 watches. It still tells the time. It still tells the time. Now, I'm not talking about politics of envy here, because I am ambitious, and, you know, I am very ambitious. But it's being able to help your kids out if they need help. It's being able to say, here's a tenner if you need a tenner. You know, it's being able to go out and say to your kids, don't worry, I'll get this, because you know they're struggling. And being able to say, sure, we go on holiday once a year as a little family, and I still do it now when my kids are grown up. But it's to try and reconnect with them and do that reconnection every year. And I pay for that. It's not thousands of pounds, trust me. It's a little boat on the Norfolk Broads. So, but it's about enough. You know, other people will rent a villa in Marbella. I can't afford that, so I rent a boat on the Norfolk Broads, because that's what I can afford. And that's enough. And if you can't afford that, then go down your beach hut with the kids and have a barbecue. And if you can't afford that, go for a walk on the downs, because that's free and you can afford that. But it's understanding what's enough, and it's making sure that, you know, with everything that's going on in the world, with all the anxiety that's going on around you, with the social media, with the pressure that we've all got on in our lives, and understanding that, try and be happy in yourself, in your own world, with your family around you. And if you can achieve that, you are the most successful person in the world, because there is a lot of people who will never ever get to experience that, just happiness, standing on top of the downs and looking out and seeing the sunset. You know, there's a lot to be said for those simple things in life that are just fantastic. And with everything that goes on in the world at the moment, and with all the social media and everything, you go to a pop concert and it frustrates me. I never take my phone out at a pop concert, and there's people taking photos or taking videos at pop concerts, and that's all they're doing. They'll never look at them again. Enjoy the moment. This is my wife taught me this. Be in the moment and enjoy the moment. I might go on the downs. In fact, I did it last night. I live on the foot of the Seven Sisters. Oh, what a place to live in the world. I live on the foot of the Seven Sisters. I walked up the top, we called it the barn walk, up the top of Seaford Head, and I was there, and the sun was going down. I took a photograph of that, and I sent it to my little family WhatsApp group to show them how fantastic it was. And I got 3 love hearts back from my 2 sons and my wife. And that was it. In the moment. Success. Done. That's it.
What a brilliant way to. Honestly, that's incredible. Yeah, that's why we connect. Right? Unbelievable. Thank you so much.
Thank
honestly. You. I knew from the minute we met over that cheese. I knew that we'd have a fantastic conversation on here, and it's been. What did we say before I come on? My expectations and reality. I knew the conversation. My expectation was it's going to be great, and it's exceeded that as I knew it would be. So, mate, thank you so much.
Thanks for inviting me. I mean,
mate, what listen. So people take so much to take away from it. For me personally, right, this is cathartic for me. This is my education right here, right? Sitting listening to people like yourself, and I'm so grateful for that. And before we go, I've got. Because you've come to our storytelling days.
So. I shared too much there as well.
But you go back to one point in your life and you can change it. What would it be and why?
Going back to one point in your life and you can change it, what would it be and why? This is obviously some good TV, is it? Oh, you've put me on a spot there. The God's honest truth. I would have realised I had enough when I was an AA patrol, and I would have lived my life as an AA patrol, and I would still have the wife I've got and the children I've got, and I could have fulfilled my ambitions and everything as an AA patrol, because I loved my time.
You wouldn't have started if you went back to that time, you wouldn't start it again.
No.
Wow.
And the reason, and I'm being honest here, and I'm still ambitious, and I'm really, really chuffed with what I've achieved, and oh my God, I was chuffed with what I've achieved. But I said to you right at the beginning, there is no better feeling than helping someone. And when I used to go out as an AA patrol and fix people's cars, the feeling I got is euphoric. It's just euphoric. So we all chase things in our jobs, and I thought when I was an AA patrol, I thought that you had a natural growth. You got promoted, which I did. Then from promotion, you either got promoted again or you start your own business, which I did. And then from starting your own business, you grow your business, which I did. And then you achieve success, which I have. But I would be in an AA patrol and having that job and helping people is a euphoric feeling. And so when my car breaks down now, I phone the AA up and they come and fix it. And I still hanker after that. That could have been me. Still. So it really probably isn't, it goes back to what I said to you. Is a dream a lie if it doesn't come true, or is it something worse? It's a Bruce Springsteen statement. What are we all chasing? What are we all searching for? We're all grabbing, searching for stuff. And it goes back to my wife. She lives in the moment. She lives in the moment, which is absolutely fantastic, and I wish I could do that. But I've never been able to do that because of all the things that we've discussed. But if I got my dream job when I was 20, I was the youngest AA patrol in Sussex. I got my dream job as a 21-year-old.
There you go, listeners.
You weren't expecting that one, were you?
You know what? Absolutely not. Wow. And again, I think it just reinforces what you said, that actually sometimes anyone listening, just look around what you've got right now, what you've got right this second. Maybe that's just enough.
Yeah, it is.
You are right now.
What are you searching for? What are you searching for?
And listeners, we will leave you with that. Ask that question to yourself. And mate, you're a legend. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing. And
Thank you.
that, as they say, is a wrap.